Welcome back to Behind the Caution Tape. I'm your host, CrashLit. It's definitely been a tough last week following all the news of the wildfires spreading throughout LA County. Hope everyone is staying safe, and to those of you who have been affected by the wildfires or have lost your homes, I'm terribly sorry. Now let's move on to everything going on with USC athletics in the past week and what's going on this week, because it's definitely going to get busy, especially with school being back. As you can see, I'm back in the surf house in my room. So let's get into everything going on. We're going to start with some football news actually today, as especially just considering that there's always seems to be something going on. This week, there's some big roster additions going on for the Trojans. Lincoln Riley rounding out his quarterback room with that third quarterback, and it turns out to be Sam Heward, who is the nephew of quarterbacks coach Luke Heward, who has had quite a journey. He played his first 2 years of college at University of Washington, spent a year at Cal Poly, and then was injured last season with Utah. So he's now transferred about a week ago on January 6th, I think right after I got done recording. So he'll round out the room. I expect he will probably be the third stringer behind Jade Mayava and Hassan Longstreet. And I think this is a good addition. I think especially Luke Heward is showing he knows how to find good talent, especially in the quarterback room. I mean, we saw that with Hassan Longstreet, really putting the full court press on him to just get him to flip from Texas A&M to USC. So I think these are some good additions that Heward is making. So I'm really excited to see how this quarterback room will compete this spring and see what it looks like in the spring game. As for the offensive line, USC got two big pickups there in Jayonre Reed, hope I'm saying that right, and DJ Wingfield from Syracuse, and DJ Wingfield from Purdue. So those are both big pickups for new offensive line coach Zach Hansen for an offense and as well for the O-line that has struggled at times when Josh Henson was the O-line coach. And I think definitely it helps add more depth. And I'm definitely interested to see how this O-line looks, especially with Zach Hansen, pardon me, now in charge of it instead of Josh Henson, who is now at Purdue. And speaking of coaches, Lincoln Riley has announced Chad Savage has been hired as the tight ends and inside receivers coach for USC. Chad Savage previously came to USC from Colorado State, where he was a big recruiter and just helped really make Southern California a priority. Lincoln Riley put out the following statement upon his hiring, and I quote here: Chad Savage is a talented coach who will be a tremendous addition to our staff. He's a rising star in the business with deep recruiting connections in Southern California. We're excited to welcome him to USC. He previously worked as the wide receiver coach and recruiting coordinator for CSU for 3 years. And for 3 years in a row, he was named the Mountain West Recruiter of the Year, and he heavily prioritized Southern California. And as you just heard from the statement I read that Riley issued, that sounds like he could really help USC get back into Southern California and help beat out the schools like Oregon, and especially Oregon, it seems like, that have kind of tried to invade USC's own backyard, you might say. But I think he's a big pickup, especially with how he's prioritized SoCal, and I think this is just great for what Lincoln wants to achieve there and to make it a priority. And then finally, and then the final bit of football news that we'll talk about today is Jacoby Lane was named to the AP All Bowl team for his standout performance in the Las Vegas Bowl, where he had 3 touchdowns. And because of the expanded playoff, the AP is now doing a all bowl team for non-playoff teams and one for the playoff teams because of that. So congrats to Jacoby Lane. I'm excited to see him back here for his junior year, where I think he could really he has a ton of potential to be the wide receiver one. We saw it whenever he had a big game, and then also just that Vegas Bowl really made a case, him and Mekhi Lemon. So I'm really excited to see how they both perform. On some news from men's water polo. Team had 5 ACWPC All-Americans. So the first team was Bernardo Herzer, Robert Lopez Duarte, and Max Miller. The third team had Carson Kranz and honorable mention Stefan Brankovic. So congrats to all 5 of them. Congrats again on an amazing season, making it all the way to the final. Looking forward to seeing those guys back out in the pool next season. Meanwhile, some women's volleyball news. And because it seems like usually with these women's volleyball athletes, they don't tend to announce their intention to transfer. They'll just announce when they are going to when they announce their new school. Tyrah Arial has announced she will be transferring to Oregon for her last year of eligibility. Not surprised, given that she did seem to say put out a goodbye post, but had a year left being a redshirt junior. So not surprised, but wish her all the best with the Ducks. Meanwhile, swim and dive, their meet against UC San Diego was canceled due to the wildfires and air quality in the LA area. On Saturday, I was going to go, but due to it, I it didn't happen, so I did not obviously wind up going. So, team did put out a statement on social media, and I quote, "Due to potential air quality concerns, USC's outdoor home swimming meet with UC San Diego scheduled for January 11th, 2025 has been canceled. Campuses remain open, and at this time, all other USC home contests are scheduled to proceed. USC athletics officials continue to monitor air quality at outdoor and indoor venues." Definitely, I was really excited to go that one, get to see both squads compete, but they will be back in action soon. And that action starts this week with both the men's and women's diving teams taking part in the Cal Diving Invitational up in Berkeley from Friday to Sunday this weekend. And both the men's and women's swim teams have two meets this weekend, facing both Bay Area schools, so former Pac-12 rivals on the road. They'll face Cal at 1 p.m. on Friday and Stanford, so at Cal, and then they'll face at Stanford on Saturday at 12 p.m. Meanwhile, for track and field, their indoor season kicks off on Saturday in the Spokane Sports Showcase, which will be hosted by Washington State. Teams have yet to are TBA for the event, but I'll make sure to recap them when we talk about this next week. Meanwhile, for women's tennis, they had their first event of the year in the Weinman Foundational Invitational, which was them against host Hawaii and Texas A&M. That was from January 8th through 11th. They went 16-2 in doubles and also got 13 singles wins. So up next for the women's tennis team is their first dual matches of the season against Texas at 12 p.m. on January 17th and against UC Irvine at 1 p.m. on January 18th. I may try to go to the Texas one, just got to see how everything shakes out with my schedule. Meanwhile, women's water polo, and you're kind of seeing that most of the spring sports are really kicking off this week now. Women's water polo kicks off their 2025 campaign at the Beach Invite in Long Beach. That'll be on Saturday. They face Biola at 11:45 a.m. and LMU at 4:45 p.m. And a big player that USC has back this year is Tilly Kearns, who was not with the team last season due to preparing to play in the Olympics for Team Australia, where she earned a silver medal. A big congratulations to Tilly. She's an incredible athlete, really, really fascinating story. I'm really hoping to get her on the podcast at some point. I'd love to chat it up with her, but for now, I'm really excited to see how this women's water polo team does. They bounce back and hope they bounce back and bring back a national championship. They certainly have the potential to do it. As for men's basketball, they had got a split last week on the road. They lost at Indiana 82-69 and then got their first ranked road win. And I think it's almost since at least over a decade. I forget exactly what the number is, but it's been a while. And it was really exciting to catch that second half of that game. We'll start with Indiana. So Wesley Yates led with 18 points against the Hoosiers. Desmond Claude had 15. USC did have a double-digit lead early in the first half. I was able to watch most of it. But IU did roar back, and they took control in the second half to win. And Indiana's a good team. Like, I'll give them credit, but it's definitely, I think this USC team is proven, and I'll get to this in a sec, they can play with anyone. Against the Fighting Illini, Claude had 31 points. Yates had 15, and then Rashawn Agee had a great performance off the bench and played 30 minutes, which is quite a lot for him. And especially kind of playing in that big man center position, too. And USC led most of half. They did give up the lead right before break, but then had kind of broke ahead at times and were leading throughout the second half and then broke away for good in the final 6 to 7 minutes of the game to win by 10. And one more fun fact was just, this was the first time Trey White, who played at USC 2 years ago, has faced the Trojans since leaving. He did his freshman year at USC, was at Louisville for his sophomore year, and is now with Illinois. So it's the second former Trojan to face the USC this year after Max Agbaum pulled Montana State back in December. So USC now is 10-6 on the season, 2-3 in Big Ten, so that puts them at tied ninth in the Big Ten standings. And they're just gonna. And up next, They have two big tests this week. Teams might not be. They face Iowa, who is 12-4 on the season and 3-2 in Big Ten. Uh, Tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. And then they face Wisconsin on Saturday at 12 p.m. So two big games. Hawkeyes are 12-4 on the season, 3-2. Badgers are 13-3, 3-2 on the season. So two big games coming up. USC is going to need everyone ready to play. And I really thought, from what I saw, especially in the second half of the game against Illinois, which I was able to catch, I thought Rashawn Agee had a great game against the Fighting Illini. He definitely is making a case to start against the Hawkeyes or Badgers. I'm definitely interested to see what Eric Musselman decides to do there. I think this team has a lot of potential. It just could be potentially a tough year one, as I've said before. And I will say this again, we as fans are going to need to be patient. That doesn't mean this year can't be special or great. I think it can still go really well. But I think we also just have to preach patience in year one, especially with the nature of this new look team. Meanwhile, we'll move to men's volleyball. Preseason ranked 7th. They started out the season 2-0, so got 2 wins. Got a 3-1 win against Damon on Thursday, a 3-0 win against Princeton on Saturday. So definitely two big games still happened, especially with, I think USC really came out swinging. I think obviously first set was a little tough against Damon. We'll get to that in a sec. Dylan Klein led with 16 kills against the Wildcats, and I think they played really well in the first set, especially as they won it. And then USC did have to rally behind, but got progressively better each set, which I was really impressed with. I think they just rebounded well, played a little angry, and I was just really excited to see it. And then notable change I saw head coach Jeff Nygaard make in that match against Damon was have Austin Stewart play at libero over Riley Hain, who started set 1. And I think I was really impressed with Stewart, who then started and played the entirety of the Princeton match at libero. So I think a smart adjustment there from Nygaard. And then against the Tigers, Klein had 14 kills. USC won each set. And Princeton was very competitive. Sets got more and more competitive. And I think it just shows that was a good team they faced. They faced two good teams this week, even if they were the favorite to win and they were at home. It just shows like these teams are going to, obviously, I think this team's going to get more comfortable. They got 4 new starters this year who either are new to the team or, in the case of Noah Roberts, didn't start consistently last year. So we'll see what Nygaard decides to do with the lineup in the coming weeks. But overall, there were 4 new guys starting with Noah Roberts at opposite, Guy Guinness, a grad transfer from UCLA. Welcome to the good side, Guy. No offense. I hope you're not. If you're listening, I hope you don't take that too personally. But I gotta say 4's down, especially with my name and reputation around here on this side of town. Freshman middle blocker Parker Tompkinson and freshman outside hitter Sterling Foley all starting and playing together for the first time, with Klein, and then Klein, who's the other outside setter, Caleb Blanchette, who's a sophomore, and either Stewart or Hain were both starters. Hain did start it outside last year. Stewart was the libero, so over half the lineup is pretty much new, and I was really impressed with how these guys came together and played. So impressed to see them get off to a 2-0 start, and really excited to see everything that's going to come this season. So they're now 2-0 on the season, and up next they will face D'Youville on Friday at 7 p.m. and Emmanuel on Saturday at 7 p.m. Both those games will be available on the Big Ten Plus. And I think what I really just want to see is this team just get better, play more comfortable, and really just start to gel, because I think this team could be very special if they continue to play at a high level like they've shown they can do, and just not drop sets they probably shouldn't. But I think overall, this is going to be a really fun year for men's volleyball. Finally, we will talk about women's basketball, who had 2 big wins this week, most notably a 79-74 win against then number 8th ranked Maryland, who was previously undefeated. And then they also got a 95-73 win last night against Penn State. Juju Watkins led with 21 points against the Terrapins, and then she fouled out. Kiki Uriafen also had 21 points. I was really, and then also Talia von Oelhoffen was also out due to injury. But I was really impressed with how Uriafen, Kennedy Smith, who had 11 points, and then Avery Howell and Kaylee Heckel, who each had 10 points, stepped up in big in the final minutes after Watkins fouled out. And I think you just see how just there's a ton of playmakers on this team. Like you saw Malia Samuels get the start, but just it doesn't. I think there's just a ton of depth on this team, and I think that's going to really help this team make their case to be national championship contenders, not just for the Big Ten, nationally too. So it's going to be a really exciting year for it. So if you haven't made it out to a game, definitely try to. Against Penn State back at home, so it was great to go to that before school resumed yesterday. Watkins led with 35 points. Iriafen had 28. And then USC just dominated the game, especially from the final minutes of the second quarter onwards, and that just allowed freshmen and younger players to get in the game as a result. For her performances this week, Juju Watkins was named the Big Ten Player of the Week for the fourth time this season. Puts the Trojans now at 16-1 on the year and 6-0 in Big Ten play. They are on a 12-game winning streak, and only UCLA and Ohio State are still undefeated in Big Ten play, in addition to the Trojans. And because no one had lost, the Trojans once again held steady at number 4. It's probably going to take South Carolina, Notre Dame, or UCLA losing, and really might not happen until the Trojans actually get a chance to face the Bruins. So it's going to be really exciting to see what happens. So USC's next game that was supposed to be against Northwestern has been postponed due to the Wildcats deciding choosing not to travel to LA for either USC or UCLA later this week due to the wildfires. And NU did release, and both the Big Ten released statements on the matter. So from Northwestern, they said, and I quote, "Due to concerns surrounding ongoing wildfires affecting the greater Los Angeles area, Northwestern University has made the decision not to travel to play its scheduled women's basketball games against UCLA on January 12th and USC on January 15th. Northwestern will return to action on Sunday, January 19th, when the team hosts Minnesota at Welsh Ryan Arena for a 2 p.m. tip-off." And the Big Ten, for the Big Ten's part, they put out a statement, and I quote, "The Northwestern University women's basketball program has made the decision to not travel to Los Angeles this week to play games scheduled against UCLA January 12th and USC January 15th. The Big Ten Conference is looking into all possible rescheduling options and will share additional information when available." I wanted to bring up both of those statements in order to just bring up the fact that I will be keeping an eye on this, and as soon as I get information, I will make sure to bring it to you all first thing here on the podcast when we talk about when the games are rescheduled, and obviously we'll preview them at a later time. So USC's next game to be played this week will be at Indiana, who is also off to a very good start. They are 12-4 on the year, 4-1 in Big Ten. The time yet is yet to be determined. It'll be either 9 or 11 a.m. Pacific time on NBC. So USC does need to take advantage of the week off before traveling out for this road trip. And Indiana's been looking good as of late, so USC's going to have their hands full. So I think it's going to be a good matchup. So really excited for it. And I think this is just going to be a really great week for the Trojans to keep their momentum going and obviously take advantage of the bit of extra time off. Definitely, and they're going to be on the road for a bit. So looking forward to watching this game this weekend if I get a chance. As for how I did at games, I went 3-0 last week at the games I was at. So the 2 men's volleyball wins against Damon and Princeton, and then the women's basketball win last night against Penn State. So that puts me at 47-13 on the season, 259 and 95 all time. And then that puts me at 9-1 at women's basketball and 2-0 at men's volleyball. My plans for this week will be both the men's volleyball games against DUville and Emmanuel, the men's basketball games against Iowa and Wisconsin this week, and then maybe if I have time, I'm going to possibly try to go to the women's tennis against Texas on Friday. So we'll see how it all works out. That's all we got for you today. Thank you again to everyone who's been tuning in, subscribing. It means the absolute world to me. Make sure to follow me on social media everywhere at CrashLit. Make sure you're subscribing to this podcast if you're enjoying it wherever you listen, either on YouTube or on an audio platform. Distribution should be ever. If it's not, please let me know. And also make sure to check out my website too, CrashLit.com, to see everything I've been up to. And hope everyone is staying safe. Again, I'm really sorry to anyone who's lost their home or is just or is going through a tough time with this. These are difficult times. I really hope everyone is staying safe. If there's any way I can support you at all, please let me know. I'm happy to be there in any way I can. So that's all we got for you. Hope everyone's staying safe. To all USC students who are back in school today, happy first day back. Looking forward to seeing you all soon. I'll see you back here next week and fight on.